In 2007, Nokia was the undisputed center of the mobile world. They controlled 40% of the global market and held a staggering valuation of over $150 billion. Within 5 years, 90% of that market value vanished. The company's dominance over rivals like Samsung went from a massive lead to a total deficit in just 24 months. On the surface, it looks like a simple case of industry disruption, but the evidence suggests a more complex failure, a company that had internally lost the ability to respond to the very market it created. Adaptation was once the core of Nokia's identity. Founded in 1865 on the banks of the Finnish River, they spent their first decades as a humble wood pulp and paper mill. For over a century, they were serial transformers. They successfully pivoted into rubber boots, then into telegraph cables, and eventually into consumer electronics. By the early 1990s, CEO Jorma Ollila pushed a company through its most radical shift yet, divesting every legacy business to focus exclusively on the explosion of mobile telecommunications. This history of successful reinvention created a dangerous belief within the company's DNA. They assumed that because they had always adapted, they were naturally immune to being left behind. Throughout the late 90s, that immunity seemed absolute. Nokia became synonymous with high-quality, bulletproof hardware, devices like the 3310 that were notoriously durable and lasted for a week on a single charge. The shift arrived in January 2007. Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, a device that abandoned physical keys for a full glass interface. Nokia's leadership watched the presentation and dismissed it. They focused on its technical flaws, the fragile screen, the lack of 3G, and the poor battery life compared to their own devices. Years of unprecedented winning had narrowed their perspective. Their success functioned as a filter, removing the urgency to address the fact that consumer interest was moving away from hardware durability and toward ease of use. Nokia's engineers actually recognized the potential of touchscreens years before Apple. They had successfully developed a color touchscreen prototype and an App Store concept in the early 2000s. Management killed the prototype. They were unwilling to risk the high-margin, high-volume keypad business that was currently making them the most profitable phone company on Earth. By the time they realized their mistake, a culture of internal fear had taken root. Communication between management layers became a bottleneck of filtered information. Middle managers were afraid to deliver bad news to aggressive executives who demanded impossible timelines. Simultaneously, those executives feared showing any sign of weakness to external shareholders and investors. This paralyzing bureaucracy meant the company's leadership was making decisions based on optimistic reports rather than the reality of their software development. The truth about Nokia's lack of a competitive smartphone platform was being suppressed at every level. Nokia tried to fight back with its existing operating system, Symbian. But Symbian was an aging codebase built for keypad phones that required massive, complex workarounds to function with a touchscreen. While Apple built a unified software ecosystem, Nokia's engineering talent was spread thin across competing internal projects. They were fighting a multi-front civil war between Symbian and their unfinished Mito platform. When Google offered Nokia the chance to join the Android group, Nokia passed. They believed the move was beneath them and would diminish their brand's identity. Their identity as a hardware giant prevented them from seeing that the industry's value had shifted into software ecosystems. By the time they attempted to pivot, their rivals had already captured the developer community. In late 2010, the board hired Stephen Elop to halt the decline. Elop soon issued an internal memo, which he likely expected to leak, brutally describing Nokia as a man standing on a burning oil platform. He announced that Nokia would abandon Symbian and MeeGo to partner with Microsoft, adopting Windows Phone as its new primary platform. But Windows Phone wasn't ready to ship for another year. This created a catastrophic effect on sales. By announcing that their current phones were obsolete long before a replacement existed, Alop effectively told consumers and developers to stop buying Nokia products immediately. Alop's attempt to create a sense of urgency succeeded, but it also engineered a fatal panic. The company's revenue collapsed before the new platform could even enter the market. This chart tracks the aftermath. When the memo leaked, Nokia's market share began a terminal decline while rivals surged. The math was devastating. By 2013, they were forced to sell their entire mobile division to Microsoft for $7 billion, a fraction of its prior worth. In 2014, the remaining parts of Nokia began a total transformation under chairman Risto Siilasmaa. They exited mapping and doubled down on networking equipment. They moved into the background of the tech industry, building the optical networks and 5G infrastructure that transport the majority of the world's internet traffic today. Nokia's fall demonstrates how success can obscure reality. Hubris from years of market dominance fostered a culture where internal fear suppressed the truth, ensuring the company never recognized the end until it had already arrived.
That was my story. But now, still. Now I've never forgot the memories we made together. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll never forget the memories we made together. Thank you for getting to my channel. See to being part of my journey.